So hello, I would like to welcome you in my new video. This video is going to be about stress in work, especially stress in environment which has open space offices. So if you're working in open space offices, then this video is exactly for you. Also, if you're new here, this is my channel about self-help and psychology, and my channel is really practical, and I like to give you guys practical information which you can use in your daily life. So if you like this kind of thing, then you can subscribe to my channel. I post once a week. About the stress in your work environment, I gotta tell you, I'm not really a fan of open space offices. In fact, you gotta take into account that my video is gonna be from this kind of perspective, but it's not just gonna be me telling you that I don't like open space offices. I'm just gonna tell you really practical reasons and things which you maybe did not observe in yourself. But they are really, in my opinion, they are really damaging to your health in long term, and to your they're really causing stress in people a lot. And I'm exactly gonna tell you how this is happening. First thing I would like to say, maybe you feel like there's this division between extroverts and introverts, that introverts will probably suffer much more in open spaces and extroverts will be just fine. This is not what I think personally. Also from the people which I met, I don't think that this is the case at all. And I'm gonna, as I said, I'm gonna tell you practically why I don't think that. So I don't really feel like there needs to be this division. So I'm not even gonna take it into account when I'm gonna be talking about this. So why I think it's negative for people, and now I'm gonna say the negatives from the workers' perspectives. Because if you are a worker here, if you're not the employer, I'm also gonna talk from employer's perspective, so you can wait for that. But if you are a worker and working in this kind of offices, then what you probably noticed, it's kind of obvious that it doesn't help your productivity in your work because of the constant noise. I feel like noise is the biggest issue in open spaces. For me, it's not as much the effect that people are around you, although it also by itself it produces noise because there are walking around you, they are making telephones, conversations and stuff like that. So also the people are causing noise, of course, but to me the noise itself, it's much more horrible because imagine that a phone rings and your colleagues pick it up and you just hear the entire conversations and it just distracts you from your work. I mean, imagine that you are really dived in your work and you really want to focus, but somebody next to you just starts talking and this person just distracts you completely, and you just have to either refocus immediately, which is not always easy to do, especially because now the person next to you is talking. So now not only that you have to refocus again, which sometimes is difficult on itself, but now you have to focus and refocus despite the fact that somebody is making noise next to you. Sometimes what I caught myself doing is that this is really, as people were talking next to me or walking behind me, is that I sometimes noticed that for my mental health it was actually better when I stopped working and I waited until the noise stopped, and then I was able to refocus again. And you might already see now how this is not going to increase anybody's productivity. It made me feel a little better, but in the long term, or when I was really stressed out and there was a lot of work, I wasn't able to do it like this. And I noticed in those days that I'm much more stressed out than normal. Why is it so stressful? Maybe you will tell me, oh, I'm not stressed out, I just work and I refocus and no big deal. It is stressful because, and this is actually something that you can empirically observe in yourself, is that with noise, it's this interesting thing. Because if you have something which is like steady and it's kind of in a background and it's a steady noise that doesn't change, and it's the same level and it's a steady noise, something like a ventilator or air conditioner or something like that, it's just buzzing, maybe you don't even hear that it's doing it, Sometimes some equipment is not doing it, but sometimes you can even see somewhere that there's air conditioning which is buzzing a little bit. If you come close to it, you can hear it. And it's just this steady noise, and if you are in this room and it's just buzzing on the background, you can hear it, but after a while you're just not going to be noticing it anymore because it's just so steady, you will get used to it. Well, but then what happens when somebody turns it off, you will notice this relief in yourself. So even though it was a steady noise, it was still bothering you, but it was more bearable, but still, even, I'm sorry, still, even when it was steady, it was still bothering you, but you only noticed that when it was turned off. While there is much more horrible noise for you, and that's unexpected noise. That's when you are being in a noisy environment where the noise is not steady, but it's just kind of jumping at you. Like, for example, you are working and it's kind of quiet, even though it's open space. Imagine it's kind of quiet, and suddenly phone rings. What happens? You just have this stressful reaction. Maybe you will tell me it's not a stressful reaction, but maybe you will notice that you woke yourself up in a way from your concentration, and maybe your heart is now beating more fast, or maybe somebody just starts talking all of a sudden and he just wakes you up from your concentration. And this is not an issue if it happens a couple times. This happens in life all the time. But if you are really in this mode where you have to refocus and you kind of dive in and you kind of stop like focusing on the environment, and there's sudden really loud noise, it's just gonna make a stress reaction in you, whether you like it or want it or not. And you can empirically observe this. I wouldn't say in the office, but I would tell you, this is the effect that's gonna happen when you're watching TV and there's the movie, and suddenly they gonna put in a commercial and the movie is kind of quiet and you kind of watch it and you are dived in the story, and suddenly there's this cut and there's a commercial and it speaks much louder than the movie and it kind of wakes you up and you have this reaction where maybe your heart starts beating before you kind of know what's going on. I know that I don't know what it's like today, if they still do commercials like this, because I don't watch television, but I know they did it, and they did it because they wanted to wake you up and make you vigilant. Basically, it was a stressful reaction on some level, but they didn't mean it to stress you out. They meant it to be vigilant and know that there is a commercial, so that you would focus on the commercial and potentially buy the product. You can also notice this if you live in some kind of environment where you live next to a train or something, because I live in a place where is a train going, and sometimes it happens to me that I'm falling into sleep and suddenly I hear this loud train and it just completely stresses me out and wakes me up. And this is what's happening to you. This stressful reaction is happening to you multiple times during the day, and your organism has to respond to that. And this is just really unhealthy in the long term. Maybe you're gonna tell me, oh, it's not so stressful, but you don't even know about it. You just got somehow used to it, but it doesn't mean that your body is not responding to that and it's not damaging to your health. Especially if you are in an open space, not only the noise can bother you, but also the fact that if you're sitting in the center of something and people are going behind your back and forth, it's also really stressful, because it's like, imagine how you feel when you're sitting somewhere and you have your back against the wall and no one can come behind your back. You just feel safer, and it's probably much easier for you to concentrate. While if you're sitting in the center, not only you are vigilant to the noise, but if the noise is happening behind your back, it makes you kind of even more vigilant. I don't know if there were any studies about this. I only empirically observed this about myself. So I guess if you want to know if this is something that's bothersome for you or not, you can empirically observe this about yourself as well. Because also, you can observe it anywhere. Even if you're standing in a supermarket and some noise is happening in front of you, it's probably gonna freak you out much less than if the noise was happening behind you, because you would be like, what is happening? I want to see what's going on behind my back, because it makes me freak out what's going on. And so this is the effect. So these are the reasons, the psychological reasons why I don't like open spaces. The reason why people or employers are even making open spaces these days is that I was doing a little bit of research on this because I wanted to really get more information than I already got, but it doesn't get more complicated than what I already knew. So basically they say that the biggest reason why they even started making open spaces was because it was supposed to increase productivity and interactions between workers, because they would be like without any barriers in one place and they could interact freely with each other, and it would be so much easier and so much smoother, and it would increase the productivity. Because I'm going to tell you about one study which was carried out recently. I will also link for you down below. And it was a study in which they actually focused on the interactions and what happens with people's interactions with each other. And they actually found out that it decreased, the interactions between people decreased by 70% in open spaces. And the email communication and electronic communication increased. So people actually, when they were forced to be the entire day in one room, they actually had less of a desire to talk to each other, because they were just fed up with the mere fact that they are with a lot of people the entire day, and they're bumping into each other all the time. And so they didn't, when they had a choice of either talking to them or writing them, they chose writing to them. And this is again something, you don't have to believe me, you don't have to believe this study, you can observe this empirically in your own working life. You can observe this if, like, look at yourself. Would you rather, or do you more often write to your colleagues who are sitting just like a couple like feet away from you, or do you go and talk to them? Me personally, I usually notice that even though this colleague of mine was sitting like close to me, I just wrote an email. And the thought process in my head behind that was that, oh, maybe he's working, maybe he's focused, and I'm just gonna go to him, and he has a lot of interactions as it is already, so I'm just not gonna like harass him in this way, kind of like going to him and wanting him to like solve my issue immediately. I'm just gonna write him so that he can get to it whenever he has time. This was my thought process behind this. You see, I already counted with the fact that this person is distracted a lot, and I don't have to increase his distractions anymore. So I was just, and I know that a lot of colleagues of mine, they were much more glad if I wrote to them, and they could deal with the issue about which I wrote to them when they want it, and not immediately. And so, like, to anybody who would say that being in one open space increases productivity, or like interactions between people, it's just, this can only say a person who never worked a single day in open space. Like, I don't see any way how open space would increase interactions. Like, even if my colleagues were working in other rooms and I would know that I have to talk to them, I would just go and talk to them. It doesn't matter that they're in some other room. If your boss is in some other room, you also get up and you go talk to him. It doesn't matter that he's not in one open space with you. You just need to talk to him, so you go and talk to him. Open space has really nothing to do with it. So why are employers doing it really? They're not doing it to increase interactions. They can tell themselves these lies or something like that. But really why they're doing it is really simple. It's cost effective. It's much more cheaper if you are building these simple factories and simple office spaces, when there's just one big office space where you can stack all the people. And it's just, it's because of this reason. And other things I wanted to talk about is that also I feel like on some level, although you gotta see that this is only my imagination probably, although I'm not sure, I also have this feeling that on some level employers don't wanna let go of open spaces because they know about this one thing that's just really apparent. To me, it's really apparent, but what's going to happen to workers who are not allowed to work in their private spaces, private rooms, but they are forced to work with in a huge room with a lot of other people, what's gonna happen is that they're gonna control themselves much more than they otherwise would if they were sitting by themselves. Like, think about it. Would you control yourself much more if you were in open space, knowing that anybody can overhear your conversation and anybody can walk over your back and anytime and see what's on your screen? And anybody can watch you, what you are doing, if you look busy enough. I personally think that in open spaces what's gonna happen is a lot of the times people are gonna feel like they're being watched constantly, even though they're maybe not being watched at all at the time, but they don't know. They don't know because they're out in the open and anybody can watch them at any time. And God knows how much people are observing you, really. You might look like you have nothing to do and somebody notices and then they're gonna start talking about you, that you are bored in your work and you have not enough work and you get into trouble, so you try to look busy, right? And I'm not saying that open spaces should be dropped because of this reason. I'm just saying, if you don't believe me, that there is this control which you execute over yourself, and you're gonna tell me, oh, I'm completely relaxed in open space. You are not relaxed. You can observe this empirically in yourself. You're just not gonna do the things you would normally do if you were sitting by yourself. You're just not gonna relax as much. And that also contributes to your stress levels a lot. What this reminds me of? This reminds me of, actually, there's this concept, or it's called panopticon, and I actually learned about this a year ago. And it's basically was designed as this building where you have you could say you have a prison cells. It's like a round building and you have a tower in the center. And the prison cells, they're made around it and they are see-through. You can see through these prison cells to every single one of these prison cells from the tower. But no one from the prison cells can see into the tower. And why is this built like this? Is that the prisoners, when they are in their cells, they don't know if somebody is in the tower watching them or not. They don't know if there is somebody who's watching precisely them at this moment, or there's no one at all, or there is somebody but he's looking the completely different direction and no one sees them. They don't know, And so the assumption behind this model was that the prisoners are gonna behave well just in case. They're just it's called internalized control. They're gonna control themselves much more just because they're not sure if somebody is watching them or not. And it's kind of this concept, it's it was never connected with open spaces. I never found anything like that, but it just reminded me of that. It just reminded me of that because I felt like this a lot of the times when I was in open space. I felt like indeed it is an internalized control. And so it's the same thing here. It's yes, there is the reason of cost effectiveness, but also I feel like there is the reason that maybe on some level the people who are making decisions about these things, they also feel like there's going to be this internalized control and people are just going to behave better when they in this space where anybody at any time can watch them. And so this is my thoughts on this thing. And now I actually wrote to myself a couple points in here. If you watched this video up until here and you feel okay, I see that there is a problem, it's not good for my psychology, for my well-being, I feel like I don't want to work in open space and I want to do something with it. What you can practically do with this to decrease your stress levels. I'm gonna give you a couple of things which I actually found on the internet and I felt like it's worth mentioning. And I'm gonna give you some solutions about what you can do because I have a couple of solutions and you can think for yourself if this is something that you feel like could be helpful or not. And so the first thing which I found on the internet actually was that they were suggesting that you can wear headphones. Not just the ones which are kind of tiny and you put them in your ears, but the big headphones which you kind of are gonna kind of isolate you or separate you from your environment. You don't even have to put any music in there. You can just have them as like being isolated from the environment. Also, you could put the earbuds, I think it's called earbuds, you put them inside your ear. Earplugs, I think, earplugs, sorry. And you can put them inside your ear and then put the headphones on, so that it really isolates you. That's maybe like a lot, but you can try and experiment with this because it can decrease the volume around you. Because what helps is not only eliminate completely the noise, but also decrease the volume of the noise. Because what's gonna stress you more is it's gonna be a loud noise, a loud phone ringing next to, which is not your phone but somebody else's phone, or just a softer phone ringing next to. It's just gonna freak you much less. So that's one thing that I would advise you to think about. And also, when people are gonna see that you have headphones on your head, maybe they will not gonna bother you as much, although I wouldn't count on it. Next thing which they mentioned on the internet is that they said that it's actually good to have some kind of like a label, make some kind of label which you're gonna put up on your table to like inform people that they shouldn't like bother you. Some kind of stop sign or some kind of red bumper or something like that, which you're gonna put on your table, and they're gonna see like don't disturb, or even write it, don't disturb me now, I'm working on something important, and write me an email or something like that. And people can see, and they're not gonna approach you, and they're gonna go away, and they're gonna come when you put off your sign. You can use this sign when you know that you're gonna be working for a couple hours on something important, and you don't want people to be just randomly coming to you. So you put up this sign, and it's gonna take some time before they're gonna get used to it. So don't be mad at them because of not respecting it. Maybe they're just gonna forget about it. You just have to be severe about it and really like make them know that this is important and they have to respect that. And it's probably gonna take some time before everybody respects that, but it's worth trying. I personally never tried it because I felt like people wouldn't respect that, but you can always try. Then what I saw they also advised is to put some kind of dividers on your table. As you have table, you can purchase, it's probably not as expensive, some kind of it's from like some heavier material, and you put it around you on your table, some kind of divider, so that you don't see your colleagues and you're kind of divided from them. That's also worth like looking into. Again, I don't see how this could be working, but they advised it, so I'm telling you here. I'm kind of skeptical, as you might see from my expression right now, kind of skeptical about these things, because the only thing that I would think would really be helpful are the headphones. But you can try also the other things. Depends on your working environment. You have different work environment than I do, so in your case it might work. And also what they say again is what helps with noise distribution. This is maybe for employers. If you're like an employer and you have a chance to decide about how the office is gonna build, it's better to have like a carpet on the floor, because the surfaces, it makes a huge difference what kind of surface you have like in the office and how much the noise is gonna be like loud in this office. Because if you have like a carpet, you can actually decrease the noise levels, and you should really think about the kind of fabrics and materials you're gonna have in the room, because this can also make some kind of difference. And then my last solution is gonna be really practical, and I think this is the best thing you can do, and I really wish too that this would be an option for you if you would really like to do this. And it's actually three solutions. The first solution is that you move your table. If you are sitting in front of the crowded area, people are behind you, in front of you, ahead of you, around you, next to you, you're just gonna ask your employer if you would be able to either sit somewhere else in a corner, explain to them that you are really stressed out, you can't focus, your productivity decreases. If you're gonna talk to your employer, it's always great to mention your productivity levels, because that's something that they're gonna understand. You have to talk in their language, because they have to know what's in it for them. So if you're gonna tell them my productivity decrease, it really negatively affects my work, and I want to work really well, I want to really be like a great worker and this is really bothering me. Is there something we can do about it? Like, can I move my table into the corner? Can I get a separate room? And even if this seems like this would never ever happen, it's good to always try. It's good to always try. It always helps to suggest to your employer that, well, first, it helps if you really think about it in your head, like practically. If you're gonna see immediately that you can move your table to a corner and there's a room for that, then you can just go to your boss and tell him, okay, I know exactly where the table can go, I will move it by myself, I will arrange the whole thing, I will do it before the workday starts, nobody will gonna know about it, I'm gonna do it by myself, I'm gonna organize the whole thing and it's gonna be cool. You know, you have to put it like this. Like, your boss wants to know that he's not going to have any extra work with that. You're going to do it by yourself. You're going to arrange it by yourself. Think about it from beginning to an end. Or you can even offer to your boss that if you can't move your table, you can bring your own table and put it in the corner which you like. You know, your own table, and you're going to arrange it by yourself. Again, I don't know what kind of work environment you have. Maybe you will hear my suggestions and you will already feel like it's ridiculous. But it can be ridiculous for you, but maybe someone else is watching this video and they are working in different office, and maybe for them this advice is going to be useful. So before you completely dismiss it, please think about it at least for like a little while and try to imagine it in your head. For me, it's kind of easier because I was used to moving my furniture in my room since I can remember. I really enjoyed like seeing the space and imagining and visualizing about how the furniture can be moved differently, and so on and so forth. So that's the first possibility. The second possibility is actually arrange the whole organization of your office. This can be more demanding, but I wouldn't totally dismiss it, because if you have more colleagues who are also dissatisfied with the arrangement of the office, then you can actually think for yourself how your office can be rearranged. And also, you can think about, oh, here is some room which is not used very optimally, maybe some conference room, and maybe we could do a quiet room from that. You know, maybe you could make like a quiet room so that everybody would come in and they would have to shut up. No phones would be allowed to ring in here. It would be for people who really want to sit in quiet and focus. You know, kind of like in college libraries. Libraries are a great example for this, because in college, when you go into library, it's so freaking quiet that you are almost feel anxious even walking here, because you feel like you're gonna disturb the people, you know. And no phones are ringing here, people are not talking to each other, it's just really quiet. So really, and when you think about it like this, you will arrange and prepare the whole thing. You will go to your colleagues, you will find support with them, they're going to tell you, oh, that's a good idea, and stuff like that. And then you can come to your boss and tell him, like, look, I have a proposition for you, how we can increase our productivity levels. We can make this quiet room in this conference room, because this conference room is not used at all. And so we can make a quiet room so people can grab their laptops and go sit there and work there. And see how this turns out. Again, maybe you're gonna smile at this and tell, oh, this is not able to do in my work. Again, it's just a suggestion. And the third thing is that you can quit your job and find another job in which you are going to be able to arrange your working conditions. This, I would say that this is like, you're not probably going to do this because you don't want to maybe lose your job. But if in long term you feel like this is really making you miserable and it's really messing up your health, then I think this is a really good thing to do. Because imagine that you are at a job interview and maybe you're not going to negotiate about money because maybe you are satisfied with the money that they offer. And now at the job interview, here comes the point when they are asking you, okay, do you have any other questions, or do you want to ask us something? Then here is the time to ask about your working environment, because you're going to spend a hell of a lot of time in here. And so you can ask them, what does my work environment look like? Can we go now and take a look at it? I want to see where I'm going to sit. You can explain to them that you want to be very productive, but you can only be productive when you have like decent like surroundings around you, and people are not bothering you, and the noise levels are accurate, and you can even tell them if they're deciding, maybe they're deciding now where they're gonna seat you, maybe they have several options where you can sit. And if you're gonna tell them like, look, I don't wanna like ask anything major, but this is just something that really bothered me in my last job, it was decreasing my productivity levels, my work results were suffering with this, and it would really help me if you would seat me either in my own office or in some corner, or like so that I can be isolated at least somehow from other people, even if I'm going to be sitting in an open space. And you can negotiate from here. It's much easier negotiating these things from the beginning than after some time going to your boss and trying to persuade him to change like the seating orders in your office. So if you have any questions about this topic, maybe you have some follow-up questions about you would like to maybe hear some more practical tips about how you can ask your boss, how you can convince him, what if he doesn't want to allow you these things, how you can, maybe you are at a job interview, how you want to bring up this subject. If you have any follow-up questions like that or any videos you would like to see, please ask me in the comments. I will be more than happy to make follow-up videos and speak in more detail about the practical aspects of this. Because now this video is very long, and so I'm not gonna talk about it here more. So this is everything probably that I wanted to cover in this topic. Please consider this, don't ignore this issue, because you spend a lot of the time in your work. You spend your entire life in work. Like, it's like 8 to 10 hours a day which you spend probably in your work, and it's just a huge chunk of time, and it's just really, it would be really amazing if you felt much better in your working environment than you probably currently do. And so that's everything for me. If you have any questions, please ask me in the comments, as I already said. You can also subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next week with my next video. Bye!